Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is how to set goals for your information business. And if you are what you consider to be an internet marketer, or you sell information, or you are a creative person, in other words, you generate income from something that you create out of your brain, and you actually sell that information, or you're a consultant, this is really going to help you to kind of focus in and to crystallize some of the things that you want to do in terms of setting goals. Now, what are some of the classic problems for people like us, people who are online entrepreneurs or solo business owners or people who sell things that they create? What are some of those classic problems? Maybe you are someone who has the talent, but you can't really seem to sustain production. You might seem to have a blog, and then you start out well. You're posting every day or you're posting every week, but then 3 or 4 months later, you look at your blog and there are no posts there for months at a time. Maybe the same thing is the case with your podcast or your videos. You start out well, you're producing them on a regular basis, and then something happens. All of a sudden, there are no videos, or you are a product creator. Maybe you buy private label rights and you turn those products into your own, and then you start to buy them, and then all of a sudden you look at your hard drive and they are start to piling up. If that's something that's familiar to you, please say yes, right, in the question box, and that'll be something that's going to be familiar with a lot of people. Now, um, um, maybe you have good ideas, but somehow or another, maybe you get beat in the marketplace. So in other words, you have this fantastic idea for an information product, or you have this fantastic idea for a new brand, you get it into the marketplace, but it's too late. Somebody has already beat you to the punch, or someone who is a bigger marketer, maybe they've already got something covering that. So maybe you're one of those folks, you've got good ideas, but you get beat in the marketplace. Now, this is something that we hear a lot about, right? We tend to get distracted by other good ideas. Maybe one day you're going to blog and you're going to produce content and you're going to make money as an affiliate marketer on your blog. And then all of a sudden someone says, hey, you know what? Somebody said that you can make a lot of money if you start creating products with your blog. And then all of a sudden you're distracted by that other good idea. It's not the idea doesn't work. It's just that it's an idea that took you away from the idea you were originally working on. If you're familiar with that, just say yes. And maybe you tend to be distracted by learning, right? So in other words, you might look to find something that you find a webinar, or you find a video. And what is really electric about being an online marketer or an online entrepreneur is there are so many things to learn. So many good websites, so many good videos, so many good podcasts, so many good webinars that we can be overwhelmed by learning. And that is something that is common among online marketers. Maybe you're distracted by new tools. In other words, there's a new webinar system, and you feel like you've got to have it. You get it. And then you've got to learn how to use it. Before you know it, you look up, and then there is a new tool. There's a new library tool, and then you go out and get that, and you spend time, and then you learn how to use it, and you get it situated in your business, and before you know it, then there is a new autoresponder tool. And if that is something that's going to be pretty common, again, amongst online marketers, amongst solo business owners, we tend to find tools. We're always looking for a new and a more efficient and a more effective way of being able to do business. We tend to struggle over which voice to listen to or to be mentored by. So someone authoritative comes and says, hey, you know what? What you need to do is you need to be doing Facebook Live. And then all of a sudden you think, well, yeah, I'm going to start doing Facebook Live. And then someone else comes along and says, hey, I've had great success using YouTube Live. YouTube is really coming alive. And that happens to a lot of online marketers. And so if that's happening to you, where all of a sudden you have all of these voices teaching you and telling you and showing you things that you should be doing, and you get confused and you're overwhelmed by the information, that is something that is common to online marketers. There are some people, and you know them. How many of you all know people in your life and in business that are just naturally focused? They don't struggle with these things, right? It seems like they get involved in something and they are instantly focused. They are instantly charged. They are already into it, and they are achieving success almost instantly when they get inside the market. There are some people in this business, in this life, who are naturally like that. They don't struggle with information overload. They don't struggle with what's called shiny object syndrome. And so you look at these people and you think, well, man, can I be like that, or should I be like that? But the fact of the matter is that most people, right, most people are not natural when it comes to these things. Most people struggle with trying to wrap their brain around taking something like an online business, giving it structure, and making it fit into what they do every single day. And when asked, right, by what guides our decision making or their decision making, it tends to be, sometimes it could be a coach. Maybe there was a coach you have, and they've got an influence, and you've said, well, yeah, you know what, I sort of like what they're saying, and so I'm moving in that direction. And sometimes that is and is not enough. Sometimes it is an information product you bought. Maybe it is something you spend a little more money on something. You feel like, well, yeah, you know what, I'm going to follow this because I spent the money on it. Sometimes that tends to be the guidance. Or sometimes it tends to be the action of others. You're sort of looking around. You don't want to necessarily copy anybody, but you notice 3 or 4 people who are maybe they're on your Facebook feed, or maybe they're in your Twitter, or maybe they're in your local area. They are having success in their information marketing business, and you feel like, yeah, you know what, maybe I should move in that direction. Or you might see someone having great success, and you might say, well, you know what, if they're having success doing this, why am I doing CPA marketing? If they're having success doing blogging, why am I stuck here trying to work with private label rights? If they're having success using podcasting, why am I doing video marketing? And that happens to people a lot. You are influenced by the success of others. Sometimes you are influenced by the failures of others. You get to the point and you start to think, you know what, maybe this isn't such a good idea. You start to feel like, hey, you know what, I'm going to go down this road. I'm going to go down the road of being an influencer or a blogger, and I'm going to build an audience. But then you start to see other people, and they've been involved in it for years. You start to think, well, man, if they've been involved in it for years, they haven't made any money, and it seems like a lot of other people are making money. Maybe this isn't the way to go. And sometimes that tends to influence our decision making. And sometimes, just to be real about it, sometimes it is the need to have cash. Right? Sometimes when we need to have the money to invest into something, we don't have it. Or we need to invest into something in our personal life. And at the time when we have an opportunity, well, hey, we just can't do it right then. So the need for cash influences some of our decision making. And as such, the goal of our business tends to be on a daily basis to attain some kind of result or get rid of some kind of pain. It tends to fall someplace in that list that we have up there. And unfortunately, that may or may not work to motivate us past all of the things we need to overcome in order to focus in and to be that person that gets involved and gets things done. Now, in some cases, marketers, information sellers, people who are creative business owners, solo business owners, this is what tends to happen to them. We tend to move indirectly. We don't mean to do it. We don't necessarily, there isn't any magic to it, but indirectly we move toward goals that we don't want, right? We seek to do things and we try to avoid certain things. And you might recognize that some point in your own business or in your own life when it comes to online marketing in particular. Now, so here's the question, right? Here's the question. How do you move toward the goals you actually want and you actually want to see in your own business? How do you do that? Well, there is a goal-setting framework, and a lot of you will recognize this goal-setting framework. You will recognize the SMART characteristic. How many of you recognize the SMART characteristic of goal setting? You've probably heard that maybe at your, at your place of employment, or you've heard it in passing. To guide your decision making, especially as an information marketing creator, as a solo business owner, you need a framework for all decision making. You need a framework for how you structure your life as an online business owner. And so we need goals, right? We need goals that are specific, right? So we can't have vague goals because our brain doesn't help us to get to them. Unless we have something to focus on, we will just tend to be distracted by the shiniest object, and we all recognize that. We need goals that are measurable, right? Specific is the mother of measurable. So in other words, we need things we can work toward. Specific is good, but we don't know if we're hitting the mark if it's not measurable. We need goals that are attainable. So all of us, how many of you, everybody on this on here, right, who is listening, you probably would like to make $10 million in a year, but it might not be attainable in the next calendar year. And so what we want to do is we want to set goals that are attainable. We want to make sure that we set goals that are reachable. We want to make sure that we set goals that we can actually attain to. So a goal needs to be attainable. It needs to be clearly attainable. Now, it needs to be relevant or results oriented. In other words, it needs to be something we can truly accomplish. Right? It needs to be a result. We have to do something in order to attain it. So it's not something that's airy-fairy. It's not something that's kind of vague and abstract. It is tangible. It is relevant. It is results-oriented. We have to do this in order to attain the goal. Finally, it has to be time-bound. Right? It has to be time-bound. If we don't have a time that we set to the goal, then what happens is we just kind of put it off. We know we're trying to work toward it, but our focus doesn't help us to work past all of the distractions. It doesn't help us to work toward family distractions. It doesn't help us to work past work distractions. It doesn't help us to work past social distractions. When it's not time-bound, we're not pressed as to how we accomplish it. And lastly, of course, it needs to be purposeful. So in other words, it needs to have some meaning. It needs to be something that we are actually going to get to and that we are actually going to accomplish. So now, here is the question. How can this apply, this smart characteristic of goal setting, apply to an information marketing business? How can we use this in our online business? How can we use this as solo business owners? How can we use this in order to work past the malaise? How can we work past our distractions? Well, there's a way to think about this. And this could apply if you were a blogger. It could apply if you're an affiliate marketer. It will apply if you are a PLR creator or seller. It can apply if you are a product creator. It can apply if you are a niche marketer. It can apply if you are into e-commerce. This framework can apply to you. It can apply if you are a freelancer. There are a number of freelancers who are listening and watching. It can apply to you if you are a virtual assistant and you make your living on doing virtual assistants for several individuals. It applies regardless of what sector of the information marketing business you are in. It applies. The smart characteristic applies to how you set goals and how you structure your life. Any combination of these things. So that's not any one area, but it can be any combination of these things. Now, there is a framework that can work for you. There is a framework that you can use in order to have those smart characteristics. It is a framework for 1,000 True Fans by author and editor of Wired Magazine, whose name is Kevin Kelly. And Kelly set the framework that a creative person can sustain themselves on a base income of $100,000 annually by rethinking how they attempt to reach customers. Right? This is very important. How can you attain $100,000 annually? By rethinking how you want to reach customers. Here's what it is. He argues that the creative person can create at least $100 for 1,000 customers so that they can attain a base income. So I want you to think about that for a second. For how many of you can you see or can you visualize? How many of you all can visualize creating $100 of value? I bet a lot of you can. I bet most of you can. You can visualize yourself right now, listening, watching, creating $100 of value. You can probably not only visualize that, you probably have done that already. Now, how many of you can visualize or you can see 1,000 customers? It is a tangible number. One person every day for the next 3 years is 1,000 people. That's if you only had one customer per day. In 3 years, you'd have 1,000 customers. So in other words, visualizing this goal is not only possible, not only is it tangible, it's real and it actually works. Now, what's powerful about this concept is that it can shape an online marketer or an information marketer or solo business owner's work and give them the ability to filter out the distractions. So now, what about this goal-setting framework for 1,000 True Fans? Can it work? How does it work? Is it something that fits our criteria? Does the framework meet the test? Well, it's specific, right? There's an income goal, $100,000. Would you agree? You can visualize that is a specific goal. There's nothing vague about that. There's nothing that is that's abstract about that. $100,000 is a base income. Now, that doesn't have to be all you attain to. Certainly you want to be able to do more than that, but that is the first and the starting point at which you can begin to think about this. Now, it is also measurable. Measurable. How do I know if I am accomplishing the goal? How do I know if I am getting close to what I'm trying to do? Well, how close am I to getting 1,000 True Fans? How close am I to having 1,000 fans for which I am creating $100 of value? It is measurable. How many of you can see that you can measure your business by that every single day? How many of you can not only visualize that, but you can structure your online business, you can structure your life so that you can begin to see 1,000 fans and $100 of value for each one of those people. It's attainable, right? One fan or one customer per day at the end of one calendar year brings you to 365 fans. Right? At the end of 2 years, it would bring you to 700 fans. If you did nothing, but you got one person, one customer, for whom you created $100 of value in approximately 3 calendar years, which seems like a long time, but really is not, you would be at $100,000 in your online business exclusively. Now, it is results focused. In other words, you have to make sales in order to do this. So this isn't, it isn't abstract. You have to make a sale or several sales, and you have to create value to make sales. But everyone who's listening to this, one of the things you already understand about information marketing, you already understand how to create the value. The question is, how do you focus? How do you be consistent? How do you work past the distractions? Results focus is this framework. It's time-bound. It's time-bound, a calendar year. We're trying to accomplish this inside of a calendar year. And so until we've accomplished this inside of a calendar year, guess what? We're not complete. We're not done. We haven't finished. We have not worked it. So how do we know to keep working when we're tired? How do we know to keep working if we have just kind of gotten discouraged? We keep working until we've accomplished by getting our 1,000 True Fans for whom we create $100 of value over the course of a calendar year. I want to thank you for being involved in this little discussion. You have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.